Hey, we're here with legendary Dean Kruse. We're in Auburn, Indiana. Now, Dean was the world renowned classic car auctioneer that kind of started the whole classic car auction business, but you not only started it, but you got hooked by the bug.
I
So
did.
tell us a little bit about, because through the years you've owned vast collections of many super cool cars and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my first one I bought. I was in the business about 3 years, and Leo Gephardt said, "Dean, you got to buy a collector car. You're selling them all over the world, and everybody wants to know what you own, and you tell them you don't have any. You need some." I said, "Okay." He said, "What's your favorite?" I said, "An Auburn Boattail Speedster." He said, "Well, there will be one in the Auburn sale because I own it, and it's beautiful. It's trimmed out in red interior, and it's trimmed out in red and red tail lights, and it's all white." He said, "It's a beautiful car." So I bought it, and I don't know what I paid for it, but it was a good price, maybe 30,000. Later on, when I sold it, it was probably worth 50. But anyways, then about, I don't know, 15 years later, I decided I wanted to upgrade a little bit. So, and I bought 40-some Duesenbergs. I'll tell you, that's another story. But anyways, I'm selling this car back at Auburn because I didn't want to ship it. I just drove it to the sale, put it in, and I got ready to sell it. And Leo says, "Dean, you have to tell them all that it's got fiberglass fenders." I said, "What?" He said, "It has fiberglass fenders." I said, "Leo, you let me own that car for about 20 years. You never told me it had fiberglass fenders until I'm ready to sell it. I suppose you want to buy it back." He said, "Well, yeah, I will if the price is right." I said, "This isn't even right." So I got a feeling how some people felt when they got a car home, found out it had fiberglass fenders. I couldn't even believe it. But
And you weren't as much of a mechanic side of
No,
things.
I never have been a mechanic.
You were always more of the business side, and to you, they looked like artwork.
That's
so
right.
you didn't notice sometimes if
They
something wasn't quite right.
And they were artwork. When my car broke down, I kicked the dabbling tire. I didn't know how to do anything. I'd just look at the engine. I couldn't figure anything out. But my best deal, well, I don't know if it's my best deal, but my biggest deal was one time when I sold the company at eBay. I sold it for, I think it was 128 or 130 million dollars, and so I had quite a bit of money. And Ralph Engelstead was feeling pretty bad. I guess he had cancer. I know he did. In fact, he died. But anyways, he owned 40 some Duesenbergs, the largest collection in the world. And they said, "Dean, Ralph wants you to have it. He wants to sell it to you." I said, "Man, I don't know. How much will all that cost?" And I think they had it figured out that it was a little less than $1 million a piece, around $40 million. I said, "My goodness, I'd be crazy. I'm a farm boy from Indiana. I can't even believe of paying $40 million for something." They said, "But just think, you'll own 41 or 2 Duesenbergs. You'll have more Duesenbergs than anybody in the world, and then you're in the business and you need to own them. It's a good deal." So I ended up buying them, which was, they're good salesmen, better than I am. So then I had Duesenbergs, and I had that building at my house, a big long log building. It was a log house, and I had a log building that would hold about 60 cars. So I put all 41 of those Duesenbergs in there, and I had 4 or 5 others of my own. So I had 2 walls lined all the way, I don't know what it was, 200 feet long or something, on both sides with Duesenbergs. I had them kind of tilted in, so when you looked in, you saw the engines and the grills on every one of them. And then I had another 20, 30 cars in there, different kinds. But that was something, and I had that collection for a long time. Then I started selling them one at a time as leader cars in my sale, which was stupid, because if I had kept them down, I just think what they'd been worth now. Because they sold one of the cars that was in there that was mine for like 12 million. So
Wow.
they could have been worth 400 million. That's how stupid I was. I kept telling everybody else to buy cars, the best investment in the world, but I didn't keep my own, which I should have. A terrible deal, but I did it. So had a lot of fun, and they are, in my opinion, the Duesenberg is the Rembrandt of the automobile industry. There's a lot of great Delahaye's and some Rolls Royces and stuff, but the Duesenberg is just a good old hard German car that you can drive. If you got a Rolls Royce, you have to have a mechanic following you in a truck, you know, if you want to go over 10 miles. But and the same way with a lot of these other cars, the Delahaye's and everything, they're really, really high tech in the automobiles. Or a Duesenberg is just a good old German. You could put that engine in a tractor and plow with it.
Okay.
It's just that much power. It has so much power. Go 90 miles an hour in second gear. Think of that. And it weighed probably 4,000 or 5,000 pounds.
Yeah, and that was back when we really didn't have any roads.
No, that's right.
They were horse trails
That's right.
and basically driving race cars on horse trails.
My dad remembers he lived out south of Auburn on a farm, growing up as a boy, and they would drive those Duesenbergs sitting on a crate with goggles, with no body, just the engine and
test driving them when they were
test driving them,
them.
100 miles an hour. Everyone said, test over 100 miles. He watched them do it. He said the dust would roll. You hear them coming down the road. They run out there, whoa, and go by like a locomotive. He said you couldn't believe that big mass iron going that fast. But he said that was really interesting. And then we always went to the Indy 500, and when times got good for about 35 years, I owned a suite down there.
Okay.
And that suite was very, very expensive. And we took 3 busloads of people down every year to the race. And then I got hooked on race cars. So I started buying a lot of race cars, and I at one time got up to 200 of them.
Wow.
I bought one whole collection from a guy in southern Indiana. He had 101, so that helped me get to the 200 pretty quick. But I loved race cars. I actually got to drive the one-of-a-kind race car at the Indy 500 on the track. They let you come in and you could pay $100 a lap, and I went in, took 2 or 3 laps. I got pictures of it driving with me in it in front of the it says Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the front, painted on the pit wall. Boom, there I go by. I didn't drive real fast, but that was quite a deal. And that was a teardrop fender car, one of the most beautiful cars I've ever seen. Still sits over in the museum.
Okay.
It's just a beautiful car. Then I had Indy 500 winners, and I got all kinds of stuff. I got some dirt track cars and sprint cars, and
and then you guys even sponsored a sprint car for a while, didn't you?
I sponsored an Indy 500 car.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I owned it.
Okay.
I sponsored one for 2 or 3 years, and then they talked me into buying one.
Okay.
So I owned it, and I had a great driver, Tony. His last name just slipped my mind, but Tony, and he was a great driver. He was real young. He actually led Indy in my car that I owned, and I was paying him $250,000 a year. He's only like 26 years old or 5, and Chip Ganassi come and offered him $1 million a year, and he come to me and he said, Dean, if you tell me not to do it, I won't. I said, no, you're too good. You go do it. That's wonderful. And this is such a sad story. And he went down his first test at the Indy 500. He was going around the track and actually set a track record. Second lap, he come out down back straightaway, hitting over 200, and come in number 3 turn, and the car started like an airplane right up in the air, and it went up and started flipping over and over and hit the fence upside down and killed him. And Tony Renna was his name, Renna, and he was going to get married the next weekend. Oh man. I mean, that made me so sick that I just quit collecting race cars for quite a while and didn't sponsor any either, because he would come to my place and I liked him so well. And then I got back in it again. Same thing happened. I was sponsoring Scott Brayton's car, and he qualified on the pole that year and went out, and he had a friend of his that couldn't get his car up to speed, and Scott was a great race driver, and he said, well, let me see what we can do. He went out and started getting it faster and faster, and they'd come in, take her with it, and take it back out. Come out of the number 2 turn, and something broke on the car. I think they said it was a rear axle, and the dumb thing hit the wall and busted his neck and killed him right there. He never even he started on the pole the year before, but that year I think he would have won the race. His car was better than anybody's, faster than anybody's. He didn't even get to run it.
Wow.
And he just lived at Coldwater, and he'd drive back and forth to Indy a lot. And he stopped in our office because, as you know, we were right on 69, right on the exit with our museum. And he would stop in. He really got to be friends of Mitchell Nice and Stewart's really well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was a good man. He laughed. He had a belly laugh. And Amway had him speak at a lot of their conventions. He was a good speaker.
Okay. And then, of course, at one point you even bought a large tractor collection, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I had about 200, at least 200 tractors, maybe 250. I bought 2 collections.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from the big oil poles, steel wheels, up to the ones like International M and H's that was built in the early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I had them all.
See, and a lot of guys, their wives get upset if they own more than a couple. So I always throw him under the bus when my wife starts complaining that I got too many toys. I'm always like, hey, I haven't caught Dean Kruse yet. So.
But I had 2 wives too. Now I got none. Yeah, I drove them crazy, that's for sure.
Well, you definitely had a lot of energy, that's for sure.
I
And
traveled the
even
world.
owned several airplanes through the
Oh
years.
yeah,
too.
yeah. I owned a lot of airplanes. The last one was cost new $80 million, bought by Hershey Company,
Okay.
and I bought it from them.
Did it smell like candy bars when you was flying?
No,
in it?
but let me tell you what, that's living. I blew so many millions. I was so stupid, but I loved that. I took it to Europe 3 times. I mean, it was, you could cross the ocean. Well, we landed in Greenland or Iceland and refueled and then could go the rest of the way.
Okay.
And seated 12 people in great big plush seats,
Mm-hmm.
and you could sleep in there. I had one would make into a bed, and I could have a stewardess. They could fix meals, had a full kitchen and everything.
Wow.
Now I'm going to tell you, that's living. That spoils you.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I traveled in that. I think I owned it 3 or 4 years. I came back one time. We had a tractor sale near Seattle, Washington. And we left there and came back and landed in Fort Wayne 2 hours and 58 minutes.
Wow.
That's flying. That
Yeah.
averaged like 600 and some miles an hour. And the reason was we had a big tailwind, and he found the tailwind up. You go up, it's different heights. We found about a 100-mile-an-hour tailwind. I never believed it. That's what you normally fly from here to Columbus, Ohio. We were back from Seattle, Washington to Auburn, Indiana. I won't forget it as long as I live.
Well, it's been great. We love the stories. So, check out some of our other videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you like these videos about Dean Kruse, check out our Icons of Auburn playlist right here on Jeff Cook Wildman Adventure. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.